Okay, we're about ready to start. Today, of course, is September 11th, and it's especially meaningful for all of us. And being a native New Yorker, I appreciate that as well. And I think it's good to recognize what happened some years ago. So this is just a very brief presentation. There are three places in the Pentagon, Shanksville, Pennsylvania, New York City, 1977. I always like to bring to the attention of people the first responders who lost their lives that day. 343 of the New York City Fire Department, the FDNY, who usually they have a nickname in New York called New York's Bravest. That's their nickname. The New York Police Department, and there's a police department that runs that is on the subways. The New York Police Department likes to say they're New York's finest. We also had 8 EMT lost their lives and 55 military in the course of that day. So, in memory of that, I don't think I'm not asking people to stand in that, but I think the next video, I think this is rather moving and is a nice remembrance. This is at the World Series in 2001. Okay, just make it loud. By the way, there was an Irish tenor named Ronan Tynan, and I know there's not a lot of Yankee fans in the room, but the Yankees always did something that was exceptional. They never allowed some weird country and western or rock and roll singer to sing the national anthem. It was Robert Merrill from the Metropolitan Opera and similar talented singers. It was always a classy act. And they did God Bless America for many years in the 7th inning stretch. Ronan Tynan was the primary singer. He is an interesting guy, by the way. He's Not only is he exceptionally talented, he's also a physician, and he also was a champion Paralympic. He had amputated legs, so he actually competed in the Paralympics as well. Just an exceptional life. Okay, so here we are. Okay, good.
Right button.
Sure. So, welcome to today's meeting where we have a bunch of things we can do. So let's get started. We are in good financial shape. I guess that's about it. Okay. And we need to spend some money. We need to spend some money bringing things up to the current standards. And that is why that survey that was projected earlier and that you received in your email is particularly important. We need to know more about the membership, what their desires are, what their needs are. All those things are going into decisions for an expenditure that I expect in the next few months. It will focus on the facilities in the lab in Meadowview Lodge, but also it's part of the fact that we have a lot of money here. We have a lot of reserves, allocated funds, so we're in fine shape, and we have a couple of CDs that matured this month, so that they are going to be held in a checking account until we make a decision about a capital expenditure. So, pretty straightforward. Use you can use, probably by the end of the month, maybe as early as next week, maybe the week after. Everybody who's a member of the computer club will get a notice about if you're concerned that Microsoft will not be supporting Windows 10 after October 14th. There'll be a blurb explaining the issue. It's not a crisis. I guess that's most important. It'll continue to work. The difference is that it won't be giving you service packs and security updates. There may be other changes that will occur between now and October 14th. Shelley Goldberg, he's all over this. I mean, he's just waiting to write this up and really tell you what he knows about it. So don't panic. I guess that's the most important thing. It's like, just don't panic. It'll be fine. And we will try to inform everybody in the computer club first. We will try through alternative means of informing the community in general that we don't want to have 400 people lined up outside the lab saying, I don't know what to do, this is a crisis. So we're trying to inform the community as a whole about the changes in Windows. You're going to hear some talk about universal liability waivers. When you bought your home, you signed a liability waiver. The board of directors and the insurance people got together with some lawyers, always a dangerous situation. And now they want everybody in the community to re-sign the liability waiver that they signed when they bought their homes. I'm not involved. I'm not taking any questions on it. They want clubs to help enforce this. So this is going to be an interesting dynamic, but I just want you to say that you've heard of it, but they want people to sign liability waivers the same one you signed when you, slight amendments of course, when you moved in every 4 years. I think they're wacky. I don't think this is going to work at all, but I'm just informing you. And then we are setting a, well, thanks, Frank. Thanks, Dave. We also are setting a direction for the computer club, and that's why the survey is so critical. It'll be at the end of the presentation. I'm going to about ChatGPT. I will be speaking a bit about a strategic plan for the club. And I'm not going to, tell you all about it right now, so you're going to have to wait for that exciting news at the end of the meeting. Okay? But it is important, and we will be moving on. Okay, so this is the main thrust of the day. I said discovering ChatGPT and others. So there may be a focus on ChatGPT, but it is representative of all the AI applications that are currently available. This is the way I kind of look at it. It's kind of like having, the resources of the internet at your fingertips. And all you have to do is type or dictate in a a simple question or query, and you'll see what happens. And I will be demonstrating that. So these are things that, for example, one of the things that I do is, by the way, it's going to be obvious probably halfway through the demonstration or the piece here that I'm not an expert, because I'm going to have a transition problem from one slide to another. I know it's coming. So I just want you to know that I'm a fellow traveler, okay? I'm not somebody that sits around and plays with my computer all day, but I do want it to be useful. So frequently what I do is when I have an email that's going to take a little bit of time to respond to, I'll dictate an answer. And almost every device you have now has a little microphone in various places where you can just tap it and you can dictate. And it's a little awkward at first, but boy, you get better at it real quick. And I've been doing this for some years. Some years ago, I had a major paper to write. Basically, what I did is I dictated it for about 3 hours, and I had an assistant that was able to transcribe it for me. And he said, well, gee, that takes a lot of time. What you can do now is you can dictate something, and even if it's really bad, you can just copy it and paste it into ChatGPT, and they're going to fix it up. I mean, and you don't have to go back in and correct the there, whatever there was actually there. But you can go on and just get it done, and it's usually pretty acceptable. So if you want to write a letter to your grandson who's away at college, you can say, dictate this and say, make this in the tone of a 70-year-old grandmother sending a message to her 19-year-old grandson. And it'll put that tone from your base input and make it quick. It'll be apparent in a minute. So, this is the universe, and it's a rapidly changing universe. People once said that, I always like to quote when I was studying physics, that the only constant is change. Change is always among us. And really, we've been dealing with AI systems because for years, you just don't realize it. You know, a house thermostat is basically a response system. It measures the temperature, it turns on your furnace, it turns it off for the AC. You may have road assist when you're driving along, keeps you in lane or gives you a message. So there are little things like that. And those have been very specialized, minor things, rather simple. Very, very narrowly focused. What's going on now is these large applications, large language models. And then they were trained. At one point, Google said that it wanted to get the entire Library of Congress in its computer. All these firms, and they're putting in major money. Matter of fact, a big story late, about a month ago, Meta, which is Facebook, which is one of those tech stocks I never liked because I never liked Facebook. Okay, I think it's a burden on society, but that's an opinion. They were offering programmers with specialization in AI, we're talking 23, 24-year-olds, NBA type money to come because they're so expert in this. And that's the level of competition. And we're talking about packages of $100 million and more for a team of young adults with this kind of expertise. And this is why it's such a hyper-competitive environment. If you looked at the newspaper this morning, you may have seen something else. OpenAI, which is the parent company of ChatGPT, signed a contract with Oracle for $300 billion of computing power that they're buying from Oracle over the next, how long was it, 10 years? 10 years, I think. 10 or 20 years. Whatever it is, that's a ton of money. And that's an indication of where this is heading. And I'm going to put some caveats into why this could be very upsetting to people in a little bit. So everybody's in it. Who's going to win the game? Well, it's going to be among these folks, but everybody has a piece of it. Now there's shopping help on Amazon. Apple, sometimes its stock has been a little rocky lately, mainly because people say, I think Apple is falling behind some of these others, and therefore we're going to depress its stock for a while. You know, what is Apple Intelligence? They haven't quite clarified that yet, but they're working on it, I can assure you. So, this particular one, all the other ones are fairly similar. So just because we go this, and here's what I'm going to say. I'm confident that every single person in this room can make use of this facility and get some benefit out of it, regardless of your own perception of your expertise. Everybody. It talks with you, it understands everyday language, you don't have to dress it up. Don't have to worry about misspellings. You don't have to worry about your grammar. Just input. You basically have the World Library and a support staff, and you can actually put in things like, I was speaking to somebody about 2 or 3 weeks ago about a medical report. The person said, well, what I did is I copied it, and I pasted it into ChatGPT, and then I said, explain this to me as if I were a high school student. 3 seconds later, your medical report is in plain English. You don't have to search around, look up different words. And actually, at one point, after that, it says, would you like me to prepare a set of questions to ask your physician at your next meeting? And you just say yes, and it produces a set of questions. It's really quite remarkable. And I'll demonstrate that in a minute. And then follow-up questions, and it's free. Now, I've noticed during my 8 years in Sun City, the residents of Sun City really, really like free. You know, I wouldn't say people are tight here, but the concept of watertight does come to mind, okay? But free is good. And for a modest course, for about $20 a month, you can get the super version. But for right now, free is fine. I'm going to tell you that the only limitation is that if you use it too much in any one period of time, like in the course of 2 hours, they might say, hey, you're done for the day. Or come back tomorrow. Because, particularly if you use a lot of power, and I'll show you something that use a lot of resources. One of the problems that people will be facing over the next few years is that we need to build much more electric generation facilities to support all the power that these things are sucking up. So actually, I had one minor stop. It was a spin-off from GE called GE Vernova, and when it spun off about a year ago, I only had 10 shares. This is not big. This is not big bucks. Okay, it was like 250. Well, it went up to 640 in about a year because they are the power generation company for GE. They used to be GE. Now it's gone down because they were big into wind power, and politics out of Washington is depressing wind power. We don't want to argue that now, but actually, so it goes back and forth. But it's certainly they are a player. So free is good, and probably good enough for anybody. I haven't bought up into a subscription yet, but I'm thinking about it. Okay, so what does it do? Explains things simply. Daily tasks. We'll demonstrate that. Suggest recipes, travel ideas. By the way, I see people taking photographs. This is going to be on YouTube, and if you shoot me an email, I'll be glad to send you the deck. Okay, so don't worry about it. Terrific for writing letters, emails, notes. Tech problems. I said, geez, you know, sometimes people come to the computer lab for assistance. We may be running a program soon about how to help yourself. Not that we don't enjoy people coming in and socializing and chatting and things like that. That's great. But we're going to the point where you can say, I'm having a problem with this. What do I do? And you will get a response step by step by step that might really simplify your life a little bit. And maybe put some of our lab techs. We could be like the Maytag repairman. We could be sitting there waiting for people to come in. So, and it's just great for learning and staying curious. So, let me go further. So here's a couple things that I was thinking about doing it. This is what I have done without any formal training. I said, you know what? During COVID, my wife is a wonderful, wonderful cook. Not as often as she used to be, but you can understand. But she's a terrific cook. And during COVID, people were going out, I put on a few pounds, and I was starting to lose half a step playing pickleball, which was, gee, you're getting a little slower. Not that age has anything to do with it, but and I said, maybe I should lose 15 pounds. Okay, so I'm going to be facing you because I don't want you to get the whole profile. So we have a running joke. This is number 116 in the continuing series of we're going to lose some weight. Okay, so that was one question I posed to ChatGPT. Another one I asked for medical advice, and another one is some creation. So let's see what I have here. Okay, so this is a video. So this is hold it for a second, Frank. So this is what the screen looks like, and it says, can we allow it to, I was working at a desktop, so it asked me, can we use my microphone? So I said yes, allow the microphone. This is what the page looks like. It's a very clean page. It's almost Google-like in its simplicity, in the way Google has a simple entry page. Here is a new chat. Here are some chats that I did in the past. Over here, I'll read this out because it's quite low. Here was a ChatGPT for seniors. When I was preparing this deck, I don't use PowerPoint. In fact, I don't use Excel very much either, mainly because I always had an assistant, or I had a graduate assistant. And I would say, hey, do this, and they would come back and it was fine. So all I need to know is what those programs could do for me, but I never had to do the grunt work of preparing it. So I think the technical term is that I suck at PowerPoint. And I don't want to learn it all, but I want to get by, but I need a slide deck for this presentation. So I basically asked ChatGPT, I said, give me a slide deck for a group of 150 seniors who are generally 70 plus, and da-da-da-da-da. And it gave me a deck, which was mediocre, but it was a starting point. It was a foundation, and I could build off of that and do these other things. So one was ChatGPT for seniors. That was prepared me a PowerPoint presentation, and at the end it says that you can download it, and I had my core to build this thing out. I had another one is. There seems to be a crisis in leadership in clubs and service organizations around the country and here in Sun City. So I asked ChatGPT to give me some ideas about how to build leadership, get people to volunteer more often. We'll come to that later. Here is, I was doing some financial thing. There's a guy I like to follow. Here I had an old stock that is 43 years old. I think my wife and I, we put $2,000 into a stock in 1983 from an inheritance, a small inheritance, a little side. We said we should get rid of that. For those of you who do this kind of stuff, what's the cost basis? Damn if I know. Huh? $2,000. And now it's a total value, it's about $22,000. Okay? But of course, through the time, you had dividends and things like that you pay tax on. So I had to figure out the cost basis to figure out what it would pay. Well, I don't know. So I asked them. By the way, and here's the caution, and I'm going to re-emphasize. I got 3 different answers on 3 different days. So this is not perfect. So there's the cautionary tale, so to speak. And then I had another one here, how are the New York Giants going to do this season? And I said, not so well. No, but anyway, they gave me actually a big analysis of how the Giants are going because, as you can see here, we got the New York PD hat, we got the FDNY hat, and we got the Yankee hat. So you can't outgrow your roots. So they're still my team. So okay, so we get to this slide. So just Now I'm dictating. All that shows is that I'm dictating. I just hit the microphone, I'm dictating. And you don't need to hear it. And then I'm going to stop, and I'm going to click, I'm done. So I'm going to stop at various spots. Okay? Okay, so yeah, there it is. Let's stop it for a second. So it basically says, so the dictation was, I would like to lose some weight, but I have an addiction to chocolate, peanut butter, moose tracks. See, now moose tracks did not come out right, but it decided not to correct it because I want to show you that it still worked. Yeah. Well, here's what's coming out. Let's back that up a bit. If we can back that up and start from the beginning, and I'll just give you a running commentary. So I put in moose tracks, and it wasn't moose tracks like moose tracks. It was MOUSSE tracks, and it was mistake. But that's okay. So here we go. So I'm going to dictate, and at the end of dictation, I have to say my dictation is over. So, and then you're going to see it interprets it as a question. Okay, so here it goes. I click on that. Oh, I like to lose weight. I have addiction. I gained 15 pounds. I'm 75, 8-year-old man. What do you suggest? Hey, I hear you. Hey, that's great. Address your peanut butter craving without giving it up entirely. Here's a practical suggestion. Try portion control. Replace with a lighter version of Greek yogurt. Yep. Okay, that's not ice cream. Focus on your food habits. Keep moving. Build in structure. Change your mindset. And at your age, lose gradually. Wow. Okay. Not bad. Not bad. Matter of fact, I could have said, now give me some sample recipes. For example, I said, I got a flank steak in the refrigerator, and I got some of this. So give me 3 recipes for a nutritious, low-calorie dinner. And it would pump out a bunch of recipes. So that's why let's lose some weight. Let's go another one. That's right. Yeah, this is what I have to about this rash. Okay. Okay. I had a rash, and you're going to get to see it. Okay. So now I'm typing. I'm not dictating. I'm just typing. So let's hit start. But let me sit down here for a second. And I'll be able to do this. So you want to start. Okay. So there it is. It's going there. And let's see if I can stop this one. Let me go back. To here. This is, I told you I had transition problems. Slideshow. Yeah. Okay. Okay, this is so I'm concerned about this rash, and I'm going to attach a photograph. Now, when it gets to this, you're going to notice an interesting place right about here. So I got a hot day playing pickleball. I'm 78 years old. Is this serious? I'm going to add a file. Now I'm going to add. I'm going to say. Now I'm dancing around trying to find my photograph. It's out there somewhere, but you can see. It's not there. It's not there. Okay. We're ready to stop it in just a second, Frank. Right there, stop. Okay? If you go back, can you go back like 2 seconds? Okay, so that was the rash. Yeah, and that was just from playing pickleball on a hot day at a senior tournament in Hoffman Estates. So, now my wife, my loving wife, said, you need to go to the ER. Now, I'm not one of those guys that avoids doctors. I go to doctors. I don't screw around. On the other hand, my mother would have said, that looks like prickly heat, which I don't know what people, all you mothers out there, you know it. Frank? Yeah. Yeah, go back. Just pull the bar at the bottom there.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
See where it's coming out.
Okay, so what ended up happening is, so here's a rash, signs of infection. Here's what you should be concerned about. By the way, if you go back, let's go back to about a third in. This can go back here.
The back there,
Yeah.
sit in there.
Yeah, there.
Here, put the middle back.
Okay. When there's a, can you stop it when there's a little, I'm getting the photograph? Okay. So you're going to see that I went to get my photograph of my rash. I kept it in my favorites, but I want to see if I can stop it. It's a very quick thing. When you see that thing pop up in the upper left, you want to stop it right there. When there's 6 photographs. Are you ready to stop? Are you ready? Are you ready to stop? And stop now. Stop now. Okay, so those are my favorites. So this is an interesting thing. What is in my favorites? Reports of 2 of my stents. Hey, you never know. You know, you get into a car accident. I got a report. But the other interesting one, there's my wife in the middle up there, the sand thing. She did not do that. She was just admiring it, so we took a photo. I'm not sure why that photograph's in there, because I got much better photographs. But I thought you might be interested in the bottom middle. That's from my high school game where my high school played Power Memorial. That guy is Lou Alcindor, better known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The guys next to him who are playing for Regis High School, they are both 6'1". So that was a challenging game. And then there's some joker up in the upper left. He was asking me for investment advice, and I decided, well, I'd give him what I knew. So he was thinking, actually, that's Warren Buffett. So, okay. Okay, Frank, onward. Okay, so I drop it in, I just drop it in. And all of a sudden it says, I'm concerned, and now I hit go. And here it comes. I'm concerned about the rash. Here it comes. Thanks for sharing the photo. I'm not a doctor, but I'll give you some perspective. I'll let it sort of run. The rash on your leg, it's heat rash, probably this or that. That's your 78, contact dermatitis. When to seek medical attention, self-care. And at the end it says, would you like me to describe this to your doctor so they can make a quicker assessment? So I say, yes. Okay, so I say yes, and I hit enter again. And all of a sudden it says, okay, great idea. Here's what to tell your doctor about the rash. Comes out, this duration, okay, other health factors. All this is, by the way, within 3 seconds. Okay, all this comes out. And it goes on and on. Other health factors we have, impact on daily life. If you notice severe pain, fever, or pus, tell your doctor, would you like me to draft a 1-paragraph note? I said, sure, yes. So now it's going to draft patient note that I can send to my doctor, maybe through the portal for Northwestern or something like that, and they can determine better than I could whether it's serious or not. What do you think is calling? Question to ask my doctor. What do you think is calling this? Do I need any tests? What should I do? What signs should I watch for that means the rash is worsening or becoming dangerous? You know, all these questions are automatically coming out, all almost instantaneously. Okay, so that's my rash. Now, I feel like Liam Neeson here. I have many particular sets of skills. You know? Not to murder people like Liam Neeson when he's looking for his daughter, but one skill that I have absolutely zero confidence in is artistic creation. I can't draw. I have trouble drawing Hangman when I'm playing that game. Like what's the game on TV that I never watched with Pat Sajak? Family Game. Real Fortune, yeah, it's basically Hangman, right? When you used to play as a kid. So, okay, I have trouble drawing the Hangman. Okay. But that doesn't stop me, because what I can say to them is, I would like to see an animated cell in the style of Walt Disney that shows George Lucas, who some people think we were separated at birth brothers. There's a slight resemblance. Playing pickleball on a sun-dappled court. Okay? So that's what I asked for. What did I get? Well, sun-dappled, George Lucas, pretty good. Playing pickleball. Okay? All right, and there is a slight resemblance. Sometimes when people approach me, say, I actually had a person, I really got them because I was walking across Central Park one day when I was visiting my sister, and somebody said, hey George, I said, may the force be with you. And that's what that was the exact instruction I get up at top. That's exactly what I typed in. I saw rendering the depiction, having fun. So I said, let's make this more interesting. Why don't I attach a photograph of myself and put my head on that body, and since I'm at it, let's drop 15 pounds. Okay. There's the photograph I sent in. That photograph is what I take to barbers when I'm overseas and I want to get a haircut. So I said, this is what, because it can be dicey sometimes when you're in Italy or Bosnia or something like that. So there they put my face, better, closer. They took a little hair off. They made it a little bit lighter. I said, that's great. I said, you know what? Let's go one step further. Now, keep in mind, I have zero talent. Zero talent. I haven't done anything. So now I said, let's make that photograph in the style of Japanese anime, which is a Japanese style. They have these picture books and stuff like that. And a lot of young people like Japanese anime. It's kind of like classic comics used to be, except it has this very, very distinctive style. So let's make this in the style of Japanese anime. And of course, then it gets a little wilder, a little more intense. So revise the last photo and style so you can see the change. Now, how long did this take? This takes a lot longer than text. This takes about 80 seconds. 80 seconds to go from one to the other. And this is the kind of thing that sucks up time when you have the free version, because it takes so much computing power to do this. I said, let's go one more. Let's go one more. What do you want? How about we say, let's make this much more aggressive looking, because this looks a little classic. Let's make it more animated, more aggressive. Another 90 seconds, 80 seconds to do this. Now you can imagine that if you're a young person who's a graphic artist, or my poor daughter who did a certificate degree in editing at the University of Chicago, you're in trouble. Something's going on here. Now that doesn't mean that all those jobs are going to disappear, but a lot of them are. Right? And some of those programs that I mentioned earlier, the variety of AI applications, some of them specialize in computer coding. There was a Wall Street Journal and New York Times articles in the last month about computer science majors from prestigious institutions such as Purdue and Carnegie Mellon having trouble finding programming jobs. Why? Because programmers who use AI support have become 7 to 8 times more productive than they were without AI. Jeez. In other words, there are sub-flavors of AI like this that specialize in computer coding in particular languages, and an experienced programmer can get that grunt work done by AI instead of hiring a real human. Now, I'll stop here for an editorial comment. I saw Mark Cuban on The Daily Show 4 or 5 months ago. The Daily Show, it's got its little political bent, but I don't think anybody does better interviews than Jon Stewart in the second half of the show. And Mark Cuban, bright guy, he's a Shark Tank guy, and multi-billionaire. He said, the change that's coming will be much more difficult for our society to handle than you might expect. Not because we did change from an agrarian society to an industrial society. We changed from no computers to having the internet. But those took anywhere from 50 years to maybe 20, 25 years before now we're all on every device. So this is happening within 18 months to 2 years. And I'm not sure about if our society's structures are ready for this kind of rapidity of change and the dislocation that will happen to some positions. Now, of course, every time there's an advance, maybe new jobs do appear. And as Yogi Berra, one of my all-time favorite Yogi Berra quotes, is that it's very hard to make predictions, especially about the future. So we don't know, but something will be going on. So, everyday scenarios, explain medical returns, planning gentle exercise. I actually used this once to do a financial aid analysis. I said, here's the data about one of my grandchildren going to college. And I said, what happens if we do this or this? What happens to the financial aid package? I have some experience in that area. The response was spot on. It was spot on. It basically says, you made a mistake by giving him an amount of money that's in his name. That's taxed at a higher rate than if it's a parent asset. Well, it got into the weeds, but boy, it could save people a lot of money. If you're planning on a college education of a 13-year-old, the family can structure its finances in order to maximize its financial aid. And rather than just muddle along and say, oops, oh, we should have changed that 5 years ago. This is the kind of thing that can happen. Here's one for you, is, thank you. So here's one, how can I use dictation on my iPad? I noticed when I mentioned dictation, I got a bunch of people who started mouth breathing at me. So what you can do is just go to your desktop, put in, how can I use dictation more effectively? It'll give you easy to follow instructions. And practical tips, I have to say, you're better using this not on your phone. Maybe if you're 22, you can use your phone for this. I find having a larger screen like an iPad or a desktop was far, far easier to use. So shopping list, travel tips, whatever. Hey, I'm going to London and I only have 3 days. What should I do? My interests are this and this and this. They will map out an hour by hour, and then you can actually ask it, how do I get from one place to another while I'm there? In this place, take a cab. In this case, take the metro or the underground, or whatever they call it. I think it's the underground, they call it that. So they can give you all these kinds of specifics just by making a simple inquiry. Okay, so here's some things that I've used. 3 simple ways to prepare. Write a thank you note to my grandson for fixing my printer. I'm not sure about that, but you should. Following is a report. Please explain it in simple terms. Should we do that? I'm sending money to my grandchild's college to help with the tuition. How does it impact the financial aid policy? They did this. I said, following is a summary of a recent meeting. Please edit it and communicate an optimistic tone right at the 10th grade reading level. So just paste it, make that request. It'll adjust the reading level to the 10th grade level. And then I actually asked him one time, should we rename the computer club? I got about 30 different suggestions, including marketing tips about how to market a new name. And then somebody, it was a small group meeting, somebody says, could you make your request? I said, yeah, give me snarkier names. And kind of, getting Jesus on the tech, getting Visa tech. I mean, so it has a sense of humor. Now, but it's impersonal. So there's a couple cautions, but these are the kind of things that you can do. And again, this is still the free version. All right, limitations. Important stuff. Like I said, I got 3 different answers about the capital gains that we do want to stop. That was concerning. It's not a doctor. You can't. I would be cautious. Don't share private information, social security number. It's a helpful guide. It's not an authority. It's not the be-all and end-all. But it's still developing, and I have to tell you, it's gotten a hell of a lot better in the last year. And the pace of getting better is stunning. It's just stunning. So, but here's the one I'd like. It's not a doctor or lawyer, but it's really helpful in generating questions so that you can go in. You know how when you get to a doctor, the most important thing you do when you go to, I think, is to go to a doctor. I read an article some years ago by a guy named Jerome Bookman, And he said most doctors make a diagnosis within 20 seconds. And then they look for confirmation material. They have a confirmation bias. So my goal when I see a doctor is to slow him or her down. Wait a minute. Let me give you the full picture because I know in their mind they can see the wheels turning. Like, oh, you got this. Come on, tell me what. Hey, you got this. You got to move them off that dime. So have your questions ready before you walk into the doctor's office with whatever your concerns are. So that's helpful. How can you get started? Pretty much easily. This is the website. If you just put ChatGPT in, you go to this. So on my desktop, I bookmarked this place. It asks you have to establish an email address and a password, like everything else. Okay.
So then you sign up, because I downloaded the app.
Yeah.
But then it says sign up.
Sign up. Yeah, you sign up means they're going to want your email address. By the way, once you sign up, if you use the same sign-in on the desktop, tablet, and phone, all your history is saved. All your history is saved. And by the way, you can delete old chats too, as long as you don't want to clutter things up. But right now, I do this. So on my desktop and tablet, I just have this in my internet, my Safari browser line, and just click on ChatGPT, and it opens up right away. You don't have to sign in every time. If you remain signed in, it stays signed in. I have it on my phone, the ChatGPT app. I got it from the Apple, whatever it is. And I don't like using it because I find the phone screen too small for my taste. I'd rather just wait till I have to my tablet to really use it. So a desktop or tablet, the large screen just helps. And here's the other thing. After this, if you're confused, just go to YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search ChatGPT for beginners. You're going to have a list of 20 options. They're all about 10 minutes long. Just use one of them. And then, even that, it says ChatGPT for intermediates. And then there can be, and it goes on and on and on. And you could spend days looking at instructional videos on YouTube for this. So I would recommend, first stop is here, or just put in your search in Google ChatGPT site, and you'll be directed right to this spot. And then if you need help, go there. Tips: be as specific as you can. If the answer isn't satisfactory, try it again and rephrase it. You're not burdening anybody. There's no person getting frustrated with you because you're constantly asking the same questions 8 different ways. So it's not like talking to your children. Right? It's just a machine. All right? I'm new to this issue. Treat me like a novice. Here's my question. I want to say it will simplify things. I almost said it was going to dumb it down. That's not the point. This is not to be dumbed down. This is to simplify it, to build on where you are into a higher level. All right? So don't think of it as all helpless. Just do it like that. And consider it a conversation, because at the end, when it finishes its first response, there's another box there. You can say, well, focus on this and give me more information on this area. You can keep it going and going and going until you get to the satisfactory point that will be most helpful to you. And with that, with productivity, it's safe, give it a shot. Maybe even remember that stupid commercial from the 1950s? Hey Daddy, why is the sky blue? That's not a bad place to start. You learn a little bit about light refraction and stuff like that. Maybe something you forgot since high school physics. But that's about it. Ask it anything. Yes, sir.
Okay, Mike. And that was great information. Thank you. But artificial intelligence. I got the concept, artificial intelligence, but why can't we have actual intelligence? I mean, come on. Who here likes artificial sugar? Nobody. Oh, some do. Isn't actual sugar better? So my question for you, with this artificial intelligence idea, do you think we can ever get to actual intelligence in our world?
Right, so the next step beyond artificial intelligence is some level called general intelligence. And here is a cautionary tale. I'm going to make up some numbers, but the numbers will be general proportional to what I'm about to speak. When you get in your car and you drive to Rockford, there's probably a 0.0003 chance you're going to have an accident. Very, very small. Maybe even smaller than that. And we've gotten used to that level of risk. The people who are at the cutting edge of artificial intelligence going towards general intelligence, that is, intelligence, a machine that can actually think for itself, seems to be ever moving backward further and further down. But still, most people think within about 4 or 5 years, there's a good chance that the machines will be intelligent in and of themselves. And the people who are doing this, including a Nobel Prize-winning guy named Geoffrey Hinton, has said that the risk of a bad outcome is in that 8 to 10% level. In other words, the guys and the gals who are really the cutting-edge people still feel there's a major risk of getting into a 2001 Space Odyssey thing with Hal, who doesn't want to open the pod doors. And that's really dangerous, and it's a big concern. And we don't seem terribly well equipped to how to moderate that risk and to bring that down very low. I'll give you an example. Probably the safest, my brother is, he always bought used cars all his life. And he finally bought a brand new Tesla last December, and he got every Igor on it, and it cost him 60 grand. I went to visit him, and we went out to a show that was about 25 miles from where he lived. After the show, he got into the Tesla. First of all, the Tesla came over to pick us up. With his phone, he called the Tesla from 50 yards away to come pick us up and stop right where we were. Then we got into the car, and he says, "Take us home." 25 miles in the dark in Florida. And the next time he touched the wheel, it was in his driveway. Now, think about this. Someday, or every now and again, an automated driving car will kill somebody. And everybody's going to go ape. They're going to go crazy. Right? On the other hand, in that same period, thousands of people will die at the hands of humans. So where is the balance? That is, when an automated car runs over somebody, will we accept that as part of the faults of the system? Or we say, you know what, we shouldn't be doing this. We should have people driving, and therefore lose 1,000 people where only we're losing one to an automated car. These are complicated philosophical issues. And we don't seem to have the environment to discuss them honestly and forthrightly. And I'm really concerned about that. So is it going to get better? Yeah. Will we lose control? Well, it's possible, but it's not stopping. There's no stopping this.
Well, I'm just saying that the military is using the military is developing robotics. I have my niece's boyfriend actually, he works for IBM, and he said within the next 10 years, you're going to be amazed by what's going on with artificial intelligence,
right.
Robotics, it's just amazing.
Right. And by the way, who would like to invest in Abrams tanks right now? And we have drones and artificial intelligence. Hey, that's a $50 million vehicle. Hey, I got a drone for $1,000. I can go down into the turret if it's open. Okay, so there are things like that. Yes, sir.
Does it help as far as if you're trying to translate from a foreign language to English? Is there
Piece of cake. Not only, I saw the Apple presentation on Tuesday. New Apple Pro earbuds can be set to translate on the spot when somebody's speaking a foreign language. So if you speak Spanish to me, and I have it set in my ear, your Spanish will come together in English in my ear as you're speaking. That's how fast it is. All right? You can look that up. Yes,
How much resources does it use off your computer and space?
not much at all. It's just a connection through the web. What it's really doing is these data centers that are being built all around the country are sucking up tremendous amounts of energy and causing trouble with, projected trouble in the electrical grid because of how much energy they're taking. Between that and also data mining, bit mining, whatever they call it, crypto mining of things, they all take a lot of energy. So actually, a good investment would be in electric generation companies because they're going to have to build out a whole lot of stuff.
Also, privacy scams. I feel like if I'm asking a question about an investment, you know, I'm gonna all of a sudden have emails and messages and.
Yeah, I hear you. So I had a question like that, and I had some specificity about something I wanted to do with an investment. And I kind of hesitated because I didn't have total confidence yet. I had no reason to think there would be a problem, but I just didn't want to have that data out there somewhere without having a better understanding of what kind of controls they have. Yeah, I agree with you. I could do it in broad terms, like what do you think about my asset allocation proportions? But I wasn't going to put the actual numbers that, you know, I'm sitting on $84 million. No. But I would want to have that out there, and all of a sudden I find that, you know, all of a sudden there's drones in my house. You know, yes, sir.
Yes, AI is being incorporated into applications we may already be using and we may not be aware of it, such as word processing and image editing.
Excuse me, 1 second. When you do a Google search, the AI is working in the background. That's Gemini. And when you're working in the Office suite, Copilot is readily available.
How can you identify if we are using it and if it's something we needed or use, such as an image, identifying images?
I believe somebody wrote to me just the other day. Who was it? I forget who it was. That there is a way that something is still embedded in those images that I had that indicate it was AI generated. However, I saw a video of Richard Nixon making a speech to the country bemoaning the deaths of the astronauts on the moon because the rocket didn't take off. The elections coming up are going to be so rife with false information. And I'm going to go a little bit political here. Not political in Democrats and Republicans, but just in general. If we can't all agree on the truth, we got a major problem that will be at the foundation of all kinds of discord. So one famous senator from New York, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, said, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but no one's entitled to their own facts. So somewhere along the line, I see this as a potential disturbance to our society because of the false videos that will be produced probably coming up in the next election. Go back there and then here. Okay.
If I download this app to my desktop, I'll save for my files, financial, etc., as well as where I go on the internet.
I can't, I'm not an expert in security, but I think you're pretty safe. But I haven't heard anybody imply that there have been major breaches in AI. Last question, because I have another important topic to get to. Ma'am?
I was just going to ask, what is this going to do to the education system, to kids not learning how to write, not thinking?
Well, to answer the question is there are ways that, at least at college level, I'm not sure about the high school, I think high school too, they can take a submission from the student, which is all submitted electronically, and there are some markers that indicate they've been AI generated. Now, according to my grandson, who's a pretty bright kid, he says it's a hell of a way to get a good start, but it's not the way to finish a good paper. And the professors and teachers are getting able to see through that. On the other hand, you know, I'm one of those guys that still thinks every second grader should know the multiplication tables. So, and then I'm pretty good at math. And then I see how they're trying to solve a problem in a methodology that was foreign to me. So I think it's a bit of a crapshoot. We don't know. The reports that came out recently, I think COVID was a real problem in a lot of ways. But still, I have to be an optimist about the general intelligence of the younger generation. But on the other hand, I'm a little concerned about, I mean, there's no better way to start an argument than say, what's wrong with education in the United States? I mean, we got 120 different opinions. And that's because it's an emotional, value-laden question. It's not a concrete question. So therefore, it becomes very difficult to settle on what is the core issue. This is why society, I think, will be under pressure because of all this input and the rapidity with which it's going to arrive. So, but let me go now to one more topic. Whoops. Am I back? Okay. So what's this survey all about, and what are we concerned about? I'd like every person here who is a normal attending person for the computer board, that is not the ones who are guests. The people, would you just stand up? The guys who normally, and women, who normally show up at every computer board meeting. Yeah, come on, stand up. All right, just stay standing up. These guys. Okay. These are remarkable people. They've been. Stand up there. You can't sit down there. I know he's injured, but he can do it. And they're great, and they have built a tremendous organization. Okay. Now you may notice, first of all, we only have one woman, and usually I think Gerald is here. So for all you women who have been complaining that you don't get opportunities to get involved, we need more women. Either do it or don't. Okay, but the other part is, you may have noticed that of this group, I think I may be the youngest person, maybe Frank is younger. I'm 78.
You're younger.
Yeah, I'm younger. Folks, this is not going to look the same 10 years from now. Okay, guys. Okay, you got the point. And something, their legacy needs to be preserved. And we don't have people preserving it. So what we started to do is to raise some questions. What is the mission of the club? What constitutes success? Do we need these meetings? I mean, are you not entertained? Right? No one's made a suggestion about the topic. Nobody stepped forward after the last thing about a watch that was well received and said, you know what, I could teach a class on that. Nobody did. And if nobody does, it ain't gonna happen. That's basically it. Do we need general meetings? How often? What's the primary focus? Is it coffee and donuts? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's a big factor. You know, is it social? Perhaps. Very important element. No question about that. But I have no idea what we're going to do in October. Or maybe there's some wacky ideas out there. Maybe you say, well, I don't have to be a public speaker. Okay. Well, put in the 2.5 or 3 hours to prepare a presentation like this. And we'll get somebody to deliver it for you. I could do it if somebody else could do it. Who doesn't mind speaking to a crowd? It's just an idea. I don't think it's a terrible idea. But we need to work on our terrible ideas to figure out what our ideas are going to be. What do you guys want? Who are our members? That's what the survey is all about. Who are you? What is your level of expertise? What kind of systems do you use? We need to know in order to better serve the membership. Is there any more interest in classes? Are we beyond that? How will the lab be used in the future? How can we involve more members, especially younger ones? I got the feeling, I'm not going to ask a show of hands, but I don't see many 65 and unders here. Okay? And they're here in the community. The median age is 72, apparently. So there's young people around, but they don't seem to have that. And by the way, their expertise may be more relevant because have been more recently in the workforce. Those folks that were standing up, they've been retired for 20 years. And yet they still have an interest in these kinds of issues. But it's not going to be forever. We need other people. How do we attract more membership? So these are starters, and definitive answers will be problematical. But on the other hand, there's 2 ways you can go. Either you can get engaged in sharing your opinions and your thoughts, or if you don't, you get what you get, which is kind of harsh. But I don't think anybody's going to argue with the logic. So what we're doing is we're trying to tease out all these issues over the course of the next 2 months. And you're an important part of it, and you have a contribution to make based on all your experiences with the club over the years. We are going, I'll just tell you what's going to happen. Frank is going to send out a notice in a while. But on September 29th at 6 p.m., we're going to have an open meeting in the Oak Room in Meadowview for anybody that wants to come in and give their thoughts on these issues. And it's also going to be repeated the next day at 9 in the morning. So we have an evening session and an early session on the 29th and the 30th for anybody to come in and give their thoughts about the direction of the club, where we're heading, and solve some of these issues, particularly the fact that you're going to need new leadership. Not for any other reason than the fact that, hey, people are getting on in years, and we need to download their expertise. We need to make sure that we have that this is not lost because of neglect or indifference, which is sucks the energy out of people who are trying to put on a program. Right? That's the worst thing. So I hope that you will see this as a challenge to get involved, and I don't have anything to add to that. Shelley wore himself out. I mean, how many presentations did Shelley do last year? Quite a few. Well, we can't be with Shelley all the time. It's not going to be me all the time either. So therefore, there we go. What gives? And we hope that people would see this as a challenge in a thoughtful way. What does this club look like in fall 2026? That's the key. Think of that as the vision, and what steps do we have to take in incremental ways to get to that vision, and that's what we want to try to establish this fall. Okay? All right. All right, I think we're adjourned.